In March, our kids' RESP was sitting at about $80,000, and since then a lot has happened behind the scenes, some good and some not exactly smooth sailing. And today I'm going to show you where that account is now and what major changes that I've made and why I believe that this move will make a big difference in the years ahead. If you have kids or you're even thinking about it, investing for their future is huge, and the RESP is one of the best tools we have in Canada for that. My name's Darren. I'm a regular Canadian who used to think that it was too late to start investing, but I started anyway and I'm proving every day that it's never too late to build wealth. Today is all about the RESP. We'll talk about how it works, the hidden benefits that a lot of people miss, the mistakes that I made, and why I switched this account from a managed portfolio to a DIY single all-in-one ETF. Now, if you like this kind of content, hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss the next update. And it really helps this channel out because the more times you hit like and subscribe, it pushes it out to people who are starting late in life, just like I was. An RESP is a registered education savings plan. Now, it's designed to help pay for the post-secondary education of your kids. Now, the big selling point here is that the government grants, that's the Canadian Education Savings Grant, or CESG, will match 20% of what you contribute, up to $500 per child per year to a maximum lifetime of $7,200 per beneficiary. And here's something that a lot of people don't realize. If the RESP isn't used, you do have some options. You can keep it open for future studies, you can change the beneficiary, you can transfer it to another registered account, or you can close it. One of the biggest advantages, you may be able to transfer up to $50,000 tax-free from the RESP to your RRSP if your child doesn't use it. Now that's as long as the account has been open for at least 10 years and all the beneficiaries are at least 21 and not in school. You're a Canadian resident and you have RRSP room left. You can keep an RESP open until the end of the 35th year of the beneficiary, and that's after it was open. So there's definitely plenty of time if your child takes a gap after high school or chooses to go to school later in life. Then there's the BCTESG grant. Now you really don't want to forget about this one. This is a BC grant, and that stands for British Columbia Training and Education Savings Grant. That's definitely a mouthful. It's a one-time $1,200 grant, but you have to apply when your child is between the ages of 6 and 9 years old, so definitely don't miss out on that. So let's talk about what you'd be missing out on if you miss out on the $1,200 grant. If you took that $1,200 from the age of 6 to 18 at about 5% investment, it could grow to over $2,100. But if they wait until they're 25 to use it, it could be around $2,800. Now, my personal story is here that I missed out on it for one of my kids because I didn't know about it. And here's a real kicker. You can only hold this grant at a financial institution. Wealthsimple is one, but Questrade isn't, just to give you an example. They keep saying they'll offer it, but I've been hearing about that and I still haven't seen it happen. No, this is a good time for me to tell you guys, if you decide to open a Wealthsimple account, my referral code is in the description below. Now, it's a great way to support the channel, and in the description you'll also find other links to things like Blossom Social, which is a great place to put the puzzle together when it comes to learning about investing. Why I stayed with Wealthsimple? Well, I originally tried to move our RESP to Questrade to avoid Wealthsimple's 0.4% managed account fee. The transfer didn't go smoothly, and Questrade's help wasn't exactly stellar. Wealthsimple, on the other hand, was incredibly responsible when I reached out to them, and they told me they were launching the DIY RESP investing, and that sold me instantly. I stopped the transfer to Questrade and I kept it at Wealthsimple, but made one big change. So obviously one of the big first things as I did was I switched from that managed portfolio to the DIY version. The managed portfolio had a similar setup to my TFSA and spousal RRSP, which is internationally diversified with ETFs. But I already managed those accounts, so for the RESP, I switched to a set and forget it approach. And that's the iShares Core Equity ETF portfolio, which is known as XEQT. The main reason was the fee. That 0.4% on a growing account adds up. Now, when we started, the fee was around about $17 a month, and it had grown to about $28. That's money that could be invested for our kids, for us, instead of the institution. Now, if you're not comfortable managing your own account, Wealthsimple's managed portfolios are definitely a great way to manage your portfolio until you can learn a little bit more. And depending on your plan with Wealthsimple, so if you're in the core, it's about 0.5%. If you're in the middle tier, which was the one that I was in, was 0.4%. And if you're a Generations customer, it's 0.2%. Why did I choose XEQT? Because it fits the plan. The other reason I went with XEQT is automation, because every 2 weeks when I get paid, the money goes straight in, and then Wealthsimple invests it automatically. These are settings that you can have with Wealthsimple, so you can set it and forget it. And then of course, when you get your dividends, they're automatically reinvested. Now here's the best part about XEQT. It's in Canadian dollars, so I get US and global exposure without having to worry about all those foreign exchange fees, doing things like Norbert Gambit, which you probably heard about. Now let's talk realism here. Is it perfect? No, of course not. There's no perfect strategy here. Could I squeeze out more returns if I was stock picking? Well, maybe, but at the cost of time with my family and probably a lot more stress. I'd rather just buy the ETF and watch it grow, which is a lot better than the first 10 years when we didn't even invest this RESP money at all because I thought that the stock market was too risky. Now think about that. If we go back and I had 10 more years, this money would grow a whole lot more. All right, let's strip down XEQT and see what's inside it and try to figure out why it's such a great product. All right, so we're gonna start off with ITOT. So ITOT's the entire US stock market. So think about it this way. You could take your time and figure out whether you should buy Google or Tesla or some other big stock. And instead, you can just go ahead and have ITOT, which gives you exposure to the entire US stock market, and that sits at 30% in this portfolio. Then you have XIC at 25%. XIC is the broad Canadian market, so you're getting some good, solid, broad Canadian exposure, especially when you're a Canadian. That's something you probably want to have in your portfolio. Then you have XEF at 25%, which gives you broad exposure to international markets around the world. Then you have XTOT, which gives you more exposure to the US market at about 12%. And finally, you have XEC at about 5%, which gives you exposure to those emerging markets around the world. So these are companies around the world that could become the next, Google or Tesla. So this really balances out your diversification. And finally, you have about 0.32% in cash that sits in there. And how this works is the fund managers actually go ahead, do all the trading for you so that you don't have to buy these individual ETFs. You simply put your money in one spot and then they go ahead and do all of the balancing and readjusting and all of that stuff for a very low fee. So for me, it's great because it's globally diversified in one fund. There's no rebalancing, no second guessing. So after 2 years of investing, I've learned that there's strong evidence that indexing beats most stock picking or market timing strategies over the long run. And XEQT fits that philosophy perfectly for me. Now, of course, I'll be interested to see how it stacks up against my TFSA and my spousal RRSP, which are built with very similar ETFs, but in different weightings. That asset allocation came from Ben Felix. He's the host of the Rational Reminder podcast. He is an excellent speaker and he is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to investing. So I would encourage you to check him out if you're new like me, or maybe you're just curious about what he's all about. So where's the account now? Well, this account's now sitting at $89,000. The automation is in place to max out contributions by the time our kids are 18 and collect the full $7,200 grant from the government for each child. All right, so I really want to hear from you guys about this one. Did you grab that BCT ESG grant in time if you live in BC, or are you like me and you've missed out on it? And are you team one ticket ETF, or are you more of a slice and dice person where you just want to figure everything out on your own and buy everything on your own? I really love it when you guys drop some comments below so we can learn from each other. So in the future here, I'm going to be tracking this RESP with XEQT versus my DIY TFSA and spousal RRSP with the same ingredients but different recipes. So it should be fun to see what those results are all about. And if you want to hear about all the bumps I went through, but more importantly, the lessons that I learned when I tried to move over to Quest Trade so you don't make the same mistakes, you should watch this video right here.